Okay, welcome to the OhSoInternational podcast with your new host, DJ. I have killed Jim. He is in my basement. No, I'm just kidding. We are starting this podcast to try to kind of get on a time zone that works more for our international audience, hence the name. And to play into that, we have an international panel that is comprised of 100% of Americans right now, but you may see some of your favorite Australians. If you are a fan of other stuff that we do, you may see them around as well. So I am here today with Max. How you doing, Max?
Doing well, yeah. I was gonna say I'll be we can be 1.5 American, 1.5 out of 2 because I do have English parents, so there's still a little bit of crossover from but you can tell by the sound of my voice that I'm not, I am in fact American. So
We will go with you being completely American for the point of this show.
for the sake of international.
Exactly. So, yeah, I guess we can go ahead and jump into the news that I think everybody has been talking about for the past day or so with Tottenham, and it's not exactly a good one, so we won't spend too much time on it. But we are, of course, referring to Eze getting pipped and going to Arsenal. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, but I think now is the time to go in more in depth. How are you feeling about all this?
I'm feeling a little bit, I'm feeling better today than I did yesterday. I'm feeling like today maybe I should have seen it all along, just because of how things were moving in that deal. But as far as the fit and the player, I think we'll be okay. It's just more that the links we're getting now feel very, that we're throwing darts at a board. No pun intended, since it's basically replacing Madison in the process. But yeah, I'm surviving. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you, where it's like Eze wasn't like one-to-one fit what it seems like Frank wants from his 10, but like to not sound like I'm gonna preface that because I know that sounds like a lot of cope, but he is still the kind of player that you can put on basically any team in the league and he'll make it better. So having that kind of quality in the squad is something that we desperately need, and not having him means we do not have that. And we are now 2 weeks from the transfer window closing and no closer to signing a new number 10. Because this transfer pains me, and I hate to see Arsenal fans being happy, which they should be about this transfer. Make no mistake, if we had done the same thing, I think I'd be living off that for like at least a few weeks. So unfortunately, it's one we just kind of have to take on the chin. And I guess talk about the alternatives now that we've kind of left ourselves a little bit short.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we can start off with a player who we've been linked with earlier in the window. Hey, Gary, how's it going? I guess you just said hi to DJ, but nice to meet you. First player that we were kind of linked with earlier on in the window when it was unclear whether we were going to go in for Eze, which is Bilal El Khannouss. We have showed interest. Palace, though, have kind of teed up a deal. Unclear whether or not they're going to zero in on him as their primary target for an Eze replacement. But I wanted to bring him up first because I do feel like of a lot of these targets, he's one of the most pure number 10s of all of them. We saw. Thanks, Gary. We saw under Frank, well, for Brentford's team last year, they had Damsgaard doing a sort of floating 10 role and deep buildup, pressing forward in a 2, but then also positioning themselves pretty deep to help progress play. Very similar, honestly, to Madison's role under Ange as well. So Bilal El Khannouss is a great fit for that. He just is pretty raw compared to obviously Madison and Eze and Morgan Gibbs-White, a lot of those kind of initial targets we went through. He's 21. He's only spent a year in the Premier League after coming out of Genk in Belgium. But, if you're willing to take a chance on him, allow him to sort of make mistakes and develop, it is a great option at probably around, he had a release clause now expired at around £26 million, and now it's looking more like just over 30 to get the deal done. But yeah, what do you think about him as a target, DJ?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he kind of shares a lot of the kind of hallmarks of the players that we're kind of having to shoehorn ourselves into looking at now, where it's like, yes, they have great potential. Yes, they've shown flashes of brilliance. And yes, they fit the system more or less, but they also don't have the level of security that I think we had with a player like a player like Morgan Gibbs White, where I hate to use the term because it can lead you away from targets that are like better signings, I guess, but they're not prem proven. I mean, El Khannouss kind of is, but it is still a major jump from playing at a Leicester to playing at a Tottenham. Um, and so it is. I mean, I don't know. It's hard not to be frustrated that we haven't gotten one of these more. I don't want to say surefire because nothing's surefire, but one of these more experienced players in. But I don't know. When have Tottenham ever made things easy?
Yeah,
I
and it
think.
felt. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say. I think that there is a chance, obviously, that we sign one of these younger talents like El Khannouss or a few other ones that we'll mention later, and they come out of the blocks firing, and it's another Willian to Eriksson, it's another Tapsoba to Mickey Van de Ven, it's another we've this isn't the first time we've missed on a transfer and had to go in for another guy, and hopefully it's not the first time that miss ends up being just as good, if not better, than the original target.
Yeah, I think we've had several examples of both Levy and Paratici and directors before kind of landing on their feet
Steve Hitchen.
Yeah, shout out to Steve Hitchen. Kind of falling and landing on their feet, basically. I do feel like in this case, it's a little bit unfortunate because we talked a lot at the end of last season of like, okay, we've done the Archie Gray, the Lucas Bergvall, Udogi, a lot of early 20-year-old prospect signings. Now it's time to really instill some experience into the team and bring some surefire. Hello from the south of France. Hello,
Bonjour.
South of France. Bonjour.
Sorry, my French accent's terrible.
It really felt like now was the time to go and get experience. We saw that with the Polina signing, sort of with the Kudus signing as well. And so, Eze, Morgan Gibbs White were the ones that made the most sense. And so now it feels like maybe a little bit of a half step backwards. The fact that we have to, take a chance on a prospect, maybe, with the options that we have left. So, Bilal El Khannouss is as far as profile fit goes, is a good option. But yeah, it's a little bit more of a question mark than we would have seen otherwise with our former targets.
Yeah, I think the only sort of quote unquote sure option that we have left that we've been linked to at all is Morgan Rogers, which obviously there are a lot of things that are keeping that from happening. And I don't think people have come out and said that those rumors are wide of the mark since being reported by Fabrizio Romano. But, people reported that the Eze deal was basically done for Tottenham, which I guess was true. But, it just goes to show that anything can happen. Yeah. What are your thoughts on Rodgers? We've talked a little bit off stream, and you haven't been the most excited about him. Is that more of a cost thing, or is it just you think we can do better elsewhere?
I think it's a cost thing as well, but I'm pretty strongly against it, to be honest. I think he's an amazing player, but I do think that despite being only 23, I think his stock is about as high as it could be right now. And I also don't think, as far as profile, like for me, like I said, amazing player. I love watching him play, but he's kind of just like a battering ram. Like he's like an extremely ridiculously strong carrier. He's a strong dribbler as well, but not in the most technical way, I guess, compared to some of the more flashy wingers across the Premier League. And at £80 million, which seems like the minimum that we would have been quoted, I think it's just it would be an absolute disaster signing, like as far as finances go. And, it's not my money, but I do feel like the funds could be far better used elsewhere, especially when Morgan Rogers isn't really going to go pick up, like I was saying with Madison and El Khannouss, like he's not going to go pick up the ball from deep and bring others into play. He's going to really just drive the team forward and maybe play some final passes, but really not the sort of game controlling 10 that I think Frank wants and this team really needs.
Yeah. Speaking of setting our money in other places, I think that another, as Soul Sniper has just mentioned, I think another option that a lot of Tottenham fans have kind of grabbed onto, mostly because I'd say a lot of the younger fans have latched onto him because I hate to use Gen Alpha terminology, but he plays with aura, to, which I think is something that as much as I wish that had nothing to do with whether or not we like transfer targets or like players, that is something that, especially at Tottenham with players like Gareth Bale and Aaron Lennon, like players that you just felt could you know grab the game by the scruff of the neck and change it. And Akliouche has shown signs of that, I think, at Monaco. What are your thoughts on him? Do you think he's a realistic target? Do you think, and if so, I know that he's played a lot at the right wing. Is that something that concerns you? I have my thoughts on that, but I'll give you some time to answer that after I say hello to Sean the Gooner Slayer.
Gooner Slayer, what a legend!
What a legend!
Donation, mate. Yeah, so Akliouche is probably my personal favorite, just because I'm a big advocate for just look who's on the French under-21s team, to be honest. Because they're just, and Monaco as well, are just like churning out prospects. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the signing. It is a little bit probably less of a fit compared to El Khannouss, but I do think he's got experience in big European games. You can go back and watch some of his appearances in the Champions League this past season, like the Benfica game. He was unbelievable in sort of this sort of like 8 winger combination, like an interior creative midfielder role. And so yeah, he primarily plays on the right. He can play inside a lot of. It's kind of like Eze is on the left. If you look at Eze's heat map, he's spending a lot of time sort of in like interior left wing areas. And so I think Akliouche should be similar. He'd have great link up with Khannouss if they were on the pitch together, and also could cover Khannouss as well, which I think is huge. We're already, I can foresee us becoming over reliant on Khannouss already. So yeah, I think he's not as pass first as I maybe would ideally like, but I do think as far as having a game breaking player, having a player that's strong against low block teams that we have historically struggled against, I think he would be an amazing signing. And I think it's, I'm obviously not in the weeds on these transfers. I'm not doing the negotiations, but I think it would be pretty doable. Obviously every team knows that we have however many millions burning a hole in our pocket, but I think it's still doable. And I think, whatever level we spend on him, we have to sort of spend on whoever we get now, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the only way that we convince teams we don't have that 60 million burning a hole in our pocket. Oh wow! I mentioned that we might have one of our favorite Australians on, and look who showed up.
Well, I'll take that as an insult because I'm the only Australian, so one of.
Well, now.
Now, was the one before me?
Well, he got sacked.
Replacement. That's all right. I've had to listen to what you've been saying, but keep going.
All right. Well, first I wanted to read out Soul Sniper's comment on Eze. Unfortunately, I don't think I can show it up just because I don't know what YouTube and X feel about profanity. But I do agree that at a certain point, he said that, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, what a snake Eze was. He had no intention of joining Spurs. What an absolute 100%. End of sentence. But I think that I kind of agree with that. Like we've known he's been a gooner, and to a certain point, I think we all knew if Tottenham and Arsenal both slapped the money on the table that this would be that it wouldn't be a close option. No amount of speeches, no amount of phone calls, nothing was going to convince him to not go play for his boyhood club. And I think if you dig down, you would I think most of us would agree that if all else being equal, we would rather play for Tottenham than Arsenal. Like, if we had like the ability, talent, drive, etc., to play at the Premier League level, if given the choice between the two, I think the choice would be pretty easy for us. So it's hard to blame him too much for making that decision. But yeah, got to just move on now.
Yeah, I think that's an aspect.
I used to like him.
Oh yeah, go on, Joe.
Sorry, go Max.
I was just gonna say, with the us landing on our feet thing, I think that's part of it. If we look 6 months down the line and we're happy with whatever, if hopefully we've signed a number 10, if we're happy with whoever that is, then we could say, at least we have someone that's happy to be a part of Spurs and not, didn't have Arsenal in the back of their mind the whole summer.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to think he was came across as a good guy, but now he's one of the worst He's up there with Granit Xhaka of terrible people that have played in the Premier League.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just the worst. Okay, back to the future. Instead of the past, because we can keep going back and forth about Eze and who's at fault or whatever. But honestly, at this point, it doesn't matter. It failed. We are looking to new options, and one of those options, like we were just talking about, is Magnus Akliush. I'm a big fan of him. I have watched a couple of his games at Monaco just because something of a gut feeling told me that the search for attacking options wouldn't be easy. Call it intuition born from years of supporting the same club that does the same thing to me over and over and over again. But I think that one of the concerns people have is that he plays primarily on the right. And while that is true, the way that Monaco play their wingers, he plays so centrally that I don't think that it's as big of an issue to switch centrally because of the way that he's playing. Like, he's not playing as a touchline winger, so we're not taking a touchline winger and moving him centrally. Like, that's kind of my issue with playing someone like Khannouss centrally. Is one, he very clearly wants to play the play out wide. He's said as such. And I don't like half of getting the best out of a player is making sure that player is comfortable. And also the way that Khannouss plays is he likes to play as that kind of touchline winger a lot of the time. He likes to make he likes to, I guess, gamble, more to say on like dribbling and stuff and trying to beat the man that you wouldn't want to happen in the middle of the pitch as much. Because if Khannouss loses the ball and it bounces off of like the wing back or whatever, could go out for a throw, could bounce out down the line. Like, there's a lot. And even if the wing back gets it, there's one place he needs to go so we can like effectively block off the counterattack. Whereas if you do the same thing in the middle of the park, it's doomed. And we saw that a bunch last season where when we lost the ball in the middle of the pitch, it was just right through our entire team. And no matter how you set up, unless you're setting up super defensively all of the time, you're going to leave yourself open to that if you lose the ball in the middle of the park. So having someone like Akliush, who already is used to playing more centrally, he's probably, I would say, a bit more adept at holding on to the ball than someone like Khannouss is naturally. Not to say that Khannouss can't, but doesn't want to as much.
Yeah, I also think Akliush has spent time in sort of different setups with Monaco. They did some flexing between 5 and 4 at the back systems, where you could see him filling in for Khannouss in the sort of dual striker setup, playing off of another striker. He's definitely a lot less physical. I think he would probably have to develop a little bit in that respect coming into the Premier League, but he definitely is. He's versatile, and I think positions are, you could say positions in quotation marks, because at the end of the day, it's like, what zones are you putting certain players in to get the best out of them and to get the best out of the team in general. So that one, yeah, like I said, is that one of your favorite, Deej? Joe, where do you guys rank them, I guess, as far as our options?
It's funny that
before we jump into ranking the players, I want to throw one more name in that seems potentially a little bit difficult to get, but Nico Paz. Does anyone have any thoughts on him outside of good but very expensive and hard to get?
The contract situation with Real Madrid just seems impossible.
That's kind of where I'm at as well.
Yeah, it kind of just seems like it's just not one that's worth. It's hard because, I mean, we don't want to mention what's happened in the past, but this was a similar feeling 2 weeks ago for me with Eze. It's like, I don't want to think about it because it's not going to happen. And then I got caught up in it. And this one even seems even harder to get done. I just can't see Real Madrid just letting it bypass them.
Yeah, me neither. That's kind of where I'm at. Max, would you agree?
Yeah, and I think Madrid would be silly to, even if they don't see themselves integrating him into their team in the future, I think it's kind of a foregone conclusion that they would exercise their buyback next summer and then just sell him on. He is a sky-high ceiling. He's a really exciting prospect, but at the same time, I think, dropping a 20-year-old into the team as our only creative midfielder and, saying, can you please kind of orchestrate things, is a little bit of a risk. So I do think at the fee we'd have to pay, and also just the likelihood of the deal, it's a tricky one, but it would be great. I mean, he's physical. He does a lot of Frank 10-esque things. He profiles kind of similarly to Gibbs White in some aspects. So yeah, it would be great, but it just seems like one of the more unrealistic ones.
All right, and then one more I'll throw in there just because I know the name has been mentioned by Romano. Yesterday was Tyler Dibbling. We were linked to him in January, obviously, for a much larger fee than it seems like we would be paying this time around. Anybody have any thoughts on him? Do we think that this is a good replacement? Is this someone we see moving centrally? Anyone have any overwhelming thoughts?
I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think. I mean, this signing would be good if it was coming after like a more experienced or more, by definition, number 10. I think, like my point just now about Nico Paz and the responsibility that it gives him, even though Dibbling has spent time in the Premier League, it's an even greater example of putting a young player under a lot of pressure. That's probably not great for his development. So I think I could see us trying to go at Dibbling at the very end of the window if it's like really capitulated on a couple other fronts that we're looking at. And his ceiling is sky high. He's an incredible dribbler. He's an amazing foul winner. He's got the low socks, which gives him a lot of Grealish comp. Yeah. But listen, get as many low socks in the team as possible. I'm always in favor of that. But I do think, as far as his off the ball stuff, like I don't think he's going to be the most positionally mature compared to a lot of the other targets. And I do think he's really a right winger that does cut inside, but I don't think you can kind of just drop him into the middle of the pitch and expect him to play those passes that advances his team up the pitch. So yeah, not my favorite, but obviously I love the player.
I agree with that so much, Max, especially the part that he would be great if we had made our other targets happen as a sort of just an addition at the end of the window. But yeah, I see him more as a right winger. He is similar to Kulu, I think, in the way that he sort of plays. And Kulu still needs adapting to the 10. His sort of off the ball work at the 10 isn't sort of where he needs to be. But I think he obviously can get there because he's an amazing talent and a hard worker. But he's got more developing to do than what Kulu would have to do. There's one more, DJ, that is no one really talks about. But could we get Dani Olmo?
We could if Barcelona goes down in a fiery crash. I don't know. That's one of those ones where it's like the validity of the link would come 100% based on the financial situation at Barcelona that we just don't know, and also the willingness of the Barcelona board to accept the financial position of Barcelona, which we also don't know, because those are two equally unknown things. Since I mean, everyone's kind of seen how Barcelona have managed their money and signed and not signed and registered and not registered players. So it would be a fun one, definitely. He scares me with injury history. I would, especially because we need this guy to work for at least a few months straight. I'd like someone with very little injury history. Obviously, that doesn't mean anything, especially with the physicality of the Premier League. But yeah, I think that one that'd be a fun deadline day out of nowhere. But I don't see that happening as much as the other ones, I guess. Yeah, I'd say that one's a little bit above Paz in terms of likelihood, because I think it's like Rodgers, Paz, Olmo in terms of like likelihood to happen.
Yeah, I love Olmo, and I think the club has really liked him. I remember there was that kind of debacle. I think it was this time last year where Barcelona weren't sure about their registration, and it was going to be potentially Dani Olmo just being able to walk to a different team. So I think it's clear that we like him, and I think he'd probably on paper be kind of a perfect fit as far as maturity and his abilities in different areas of the pitch. But the injury issues are a problem, and then also it seems like every player that is at Barcelona is just so in love with the club that they're never interested in kind kind of escaping. So
yeah. Sean, we will talk about this when we talk about our match preview. I just wanted to say thank you again for the donation, and we have not missed your question, but we're going to keep going through the transfer targets. We're going to finish up with the 10, and then we're going to talk about Savinho and other potential left-wing alternatives if he falls through, and then we'll get to the match preview. And I think this is where we'll talk more about this because, yeah. And speaking of, one more that I keep forgetting just because I kind of assume he's off to Chelsea, but Xavi Simons. Again, this is another one where it's a good player, reasonable-ish fee for the kind of player that he is, I think, is being quoted, but it just seems like he's going to go off to Chelsea as soon as they find some poor soul to pay for Nicholas Jackson.
Yeah.
It's not worth getting into again. It's the exact same situation as Eze, I think, with that one. I think will be used and led along a path to just go, this is the deal that's going to happen. Bye-bye. But I'm glad we're not the ones that's going to get Nicholas Jackson, though. That's the truth.
Seriously.
You don't know that.
Yeah, true.
Whack him in the 10. Who says no?
I think Richarlison being on form has kind of saved us from a lot of questionable links toward the end of the window and being fit and everything. Deciding to stay. I also wanted to throw one more, and not to like make our list super long, but I wish we were putting feelers out on Lee Kang-in. I wonder if he's like, I don't want to directly follow Heung-min Son as the kind of like, star player of the club, but I do think he'd be a great option and is not starting at PSG, but we don't have to put him in our ranking. I just wanted to float his name out there.
Not gonna lie, as soon as the ball went into the back of the net for that first goal in the Super Cup final, my thought was like, yeah, he'd do a job here. He'd be nice. I know he's not starting, but yeah, for it based on the complete lack of talk around him moving, I would assume that there's some reason that he doesn't want to move.
Yeah, probably on huge wages too.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get. I'm gonna one more. We don't talk about Keith Smith for too long. I do think he's really young. Huge potential. Unfortunately, kind of like we said for other ones, I think we kind of need to move past potential at this point. Like if Madison wasn't injured, then I'd be happy to go for a player like Smith, who's like looks like he could, go on to bigger and better things. But unfortunately, I think right now we need a player who can start every week, and potential can only get you so far. Which is kind of why we're kind of up a creek without a paddle at the moment. So I guess now we'll start with Joe, because I've been asking Max a lot of things first. Give us your top three potential. Give us your top three in order of how much you want to sign them, and then reorder those three based on how likely you think it is for us to sign them.
And this is just the 10. This doesn't count.
This is just the 10. This is nothing else. Yeah.
Geez. I honestly don't think any of them are realistic. It's really hard to pick one. Ones that seem like Dibbling, I think, is a realistic one that we could get, but I wouldn't put him high on the list of ones that I want. I just don't think he's a needle mover. I think that's where we're really stuck. We're stuck in that position where it's people that are going to be a difference maker. I think like Xavi Simons will be a difference maker. Dani Olmo would be a difference maker. I heard you saying before, Max, about Morgan Rogers, and I agree. I don't think he's that creative player. I think he's just more of a crash the box. I really see him as a very similar player to what Dele Alli was, as in that it's late runs, but he needed Christian Eriksen around him to have that creativity as well. He's a good ball carrier, but I mean, we've got Bergvall that's growing into that ball carrier as well. So, and I don't think it's realistic. I don't really want to rank them.
Just give us your three in terms of how much you want them. Well, screw. We are way past the point of being realistic in Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Just dream.
Yeah. All right, well, I'll take Dani Olmo number one, but the injury concerns there. And then probably Nico Paz, but obviously I haven't watched him that much. And the guy I can't even pronounce the name of, which you guys have been talking about. Khannouss, yeah. It's funny because when I was your guys' age, it was like Bojan Krkic era where you're like, about all the young guys that are coming through. But now I've got a kid. I don't have time to watch Monaco play. So like, I don't want to comment on how good he is and stuff like that. But watching his highlights, a lot of the highlights come from central, like come from inside the middle of the field. So I think he could do it, but I guess that's what I put out there. Morgan Rogers is too far off, and I don't think he feels the need that we need. I guess that when Madison and Kulu come back, he can still play. But yeah, they're the ones. I'm not too keen on Dibbling, I don't think. Was there anyone else that you had on the list? Khannouss. I want Khannouss to come for the fact that we could just piss off Palace for leading us on, but that's the only reason. It doesn't excite me that much as a player.
All right, Max, who's your top three?
My top three. Okay, so I would say third, I would put Paz. I'm also I'm doing a balance of realism and personal preference. So yeah, I think third Paz, it would be amazing, but like I said, the age thing and the cost involved. Second, I would probably have Khannouss just because the profile fit is great. Obviously, the downside is his lack of experience on a larger team, I guess, being in European games and that sort of thing. And then I would probably have Khannouss narrowly in front of him. Like I said, I think Khannouss is a better fit, but Khannouss for me personally is like who I want to watch. And I think he's also a raw player that can really develop into a specific role. And like I said, cover off Kudus on the right side as well. So yeah, those are my three.
All right. I think my three looks pretty similar to yours. I'm gonna throw in a rogue Lee Kang-in at number 3 just because I think that would be a lot of fun. I really liked him before he went to PSG. Now he was at Valencia beforehand, if I remember correctly.
Mallorca, I think maybe he was at both.
He was at both. Yeah, that's right. Because Valencia disintegrated financially a few years ago.
Yeah.
Would have liked to get him then. Would like to get him now. Obviously, it would be cool to keep up the Korean contingent with him. Would be cool to have it would be cool to have that between Lee and then Yang whenever he comes back. Have them create a nice partnership. But yeah, I think he'd be cool. Number 2, I will go with Khannouss mostly for the pissing Palace off. At this point, I don't actually hold much ill will against Palace. My guess is that this was probably mostly agent-player driven, the kicking the can down the road, with as they saying, no, I want to play one last game in the Conference League. Oh, Arsenal came in for me. I'm sick. Whatever. So I think that it's a reasonable get. It obviously wouldn't be I wouldn't be as happy as I would have if we got Eze. But I think that he's someone we can mold and has Premier League experience. And then my number 1 is Khannouss, just because I think he's fun to watch. And at this point, that's kind of I want players that are fun to watch because I don't know. I think especially with him being in the closest to the position without having played the position that you can get, I think. So I'm not as worried about his mix up. I think he's the right age profile for us. He's a little bit above I think he's a year or 2 older. I think he's a year older than Khannouss. So he's a little bit more mature than he is and is playing at a higher level. To talk about Khannouss's stats real quick, because I want to respond to Kamal in the comments. I agree that his stats do not look great. However, there are 0 players whose stats would look great playing for last season's Leicester City in the Premier League. And that's kind of the issue with going just through FBref stats that I've found, because I do that a lot to start with players and I'll be like, damn, this player is terrible. And then I'll boot up Y-Scout or whatever and watch 5 minutes just to make sure I'm oh, actually, no, it's everyone around him who's terrible. Or there's certain players of his around him that are terrible. It's very in the same way that it was hard for anybody to really, really, really play super well in injury crisis Tottenham last season, even though there were good players. It's kind of the same for playing in that Leicester City side. There were a lot of players that just unfortunately weren't Premier League level. And I think that anyone's stats would fall due to that. That being said, Akliouch's stats are really good, and he played on a good team, which means that some of that could be that he plays on a good team. So he could be a little bit inflated. Like Akliouche, I think, had the tied for third most assists in Ligue 1 last season with 10.
Yeah.
2 other players had 11. If you put him on like a lower half Ligue 1 team, do I think he gets 10 assists? Probably not. So, everything we need to take all these stats with a grain of salt, I think. So the reason I left Paz off my list is because I just think he's completely and wholly unattainable. And Isaiah scarred me from anyone who would consider wanting any other club at the moment.
I just wanted to give a quick tidbit as well to that point on El Khannouss's stats. I was just looking into some numbers, and Leicester averaged about 45% possession last season. We're at about 55, and El Khannouss was attempting about just under 20 less passes per game, and delivering like 2 less progressive passes. So, like I said, he'll be worse than Maddison, but if you kind of scale it, I do think that he'll translate well and he'll develop relatively quickly if we were to make that move.
Yeah. Do anyone want to say any words for Harvey Elliott? I kind of feel like he doesn't pass the policy that Thomas Frank has that uses a word that I'm unclear of if YouTube will allow me to use. Maybe I'm just a bit scarred by him being a 17-year-old that hadn't matured yet. But that being said, if there are other options and similar price points, I'd rather go for them just because of that one video, because actions have consequences sometimes. Yeah.
Joe, do you want to go on Elliott? You have a spiel?
I honestly don't really care about what he did in the past, but do you ever just like think about what a player would look like in the Spurs shirt?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's actually a part of, I don't know why, it doesn't actually mean anything, but I just don't think he would look good in a Spurs shirt. that's pretty much it. That's how I feel about him. And then hopefully that's not how the scan department is going off it. They just do a jersey swap on Photoshop, and then like, oh yeah, no, he looks terrible. Let's not sign him. That's that could be it, because some players would look good in them, I think, but Elliott just doesn't. Yeah,
I think he needs a collar to thrive. Really, he needs to be able to pop a collar. It seems like his vibe. I also feel like, he definitely question marks about his, not necessarily his attitude as far as like application, but just his vibes, his mannerisms. But he does. You can also flip that and say he has kind of like a Gaza thing. With that said, though, I don't really like it, and I also think he'd probably be the same price as Akliouche, because Liverpool want 40 million. But if you're going to pay 40 million, they get a buyback. So I think they want 50 for no buyback or sell on or anything. So
we're not going to have a buyback clause with Liverpool.
No,
I'm sorry.
It's also one of those ones where it's like, if we're trying to close that gap to Liverpool, right? Then why don't they want him in their team? So if they don't want him in the team, he's not going to close the gap to Liverpool. So that's kind of off-putting as well in a bit. You don't see what goes on behind you only see his little glimpses of play, but I think that's part of it. I do agree that I'd probably prefer him over El Khannouss, but you'll sell me by the end of the stream on the Monaco guy. I think I'll be sold, and I'll be pretending to be an expert on him by the next stream.
Sounds good. Sounds like you are well and truly on your way. I mean, I guess you've already picked up what it is to be a Tottenham social media presence. You're an expert on everyone we're linked to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. So to move on from the 10 and on to the wing, which is the other position, it seems like we really, really want someone in. That someone obviously being Savinho. Lots of reports saying that City have slammed the door, and then Fabrizio Romano opening up his thesaurus and finding new ways to say we're still interested, saying we're staring at him, saying we can't stop thinking about him, saying we dream of him. We're obviously thinking about him 24/7. He has made it very clear. We wake up, we eat breakfast thinking about him. We jog, and he's in the back of our mind. we go to sleep and we see the last face we see before we close our eyes, and the first one we see when our eyes close. But yeah, I think that Savinho obviously is one that we very clearly want, and according to obviously it's not like an Ornstein or anything, but according to a Brazilian journalist who apparently is, from what I've read, is relatively reliable when it comes to Brazilian players in general. I think his claim to fame is he was one of the first on the Neymar news. Tottenham are increasing their offer again to around 80 million euros. So that would pretty much hit the quoted asking price that we have for Savinho. How do you guys feel? Do you think that Savinho is a player that's worth that much? I know there are some questions about his finishing numbers, but obviously there's a lot to like. And if Frank thinks that he's a player that's worth 80 million, what do you think that Frank sees in the Max?
So I think Savinho is kind of like an opportunity signing. It's kind of like where we talk about someone like or a team like Liverpool, let's say their transfer strategy, where it's if we see a top target for a specific position that doesn't come about very often, then you do everything you can to make that signing happen. And I think that's why we'll go into some alternatives, but I think that's why it's difficult to have alternatives for this move, because it's really, when he came out of Girona a couple of years ago, he profiled as, pretty much one of the best dribbling wingers in Europe. And, he's both sided. He can play off the right, which he's done a lot for City, but he thrives off the left side. I think his creation stats are way better off the left. So it makes sense at 21 that you go for him at such a large outlay, just because if he's already performing at a Champions League level now, then what can he turn into? He's like a franchise level player. But it's a tricky one. It seems like it could be City posturing about not wanting to sell him pre our game in a couple days. It sounds like they will accept around the 80 million euro mark, but it's also being blocked by Ferran. I forget their last name, but it's unclear whether the runway will open for us to make the move happen. But I do think of the left wing options on the market, he's probably far and away the best, even though it's a huge outlay.
You're right, DJ. It was the one that I do fall asleep thinking about so you nailed that perfectly. I do really want him to come. There's a couple of reasons. Is because he is a fantastic player. Only really his finishing needs to improve, but he's so young that he has the chance to do that. We also need to have something to settle down the fan base, and I think getting this over the line would do that a lot. But it's also in a similar vein to the deal where we can't get too attached to it because it could easily just go wrong. But I mean, do you remember when Harry Kane was linked to going to, or City wanted Kane, and basically Pep was saying, if a player wants to go, we would let him go. And then now he's like, well, Savinho has to come into my office and say that, hey, I want to leave your club, which is crazy for an adult to make a young 20-year-old do. Be like, come say that you don't want to work here anymore and basically either ostracize yourself or get the move. Like, I feel like they're just using the backroom staff or the sort of board members as an excuse to block it. They're probably saying one guy is trying to block it. It's probably they're trying to just get more money so that they can then make it easier for them to buy Rodrigo. They basically want us to pay for Rodrigo for them. Because we're getting to the point where it's nearly the same, getting to the same price. I think that 80 million euros, 70 million sort of ish pounds is getting to the point where it's getting too pricey. But I think it'd probably be worth spending that extra money on him to just calm the fan base down. But there's not too many that we could actually pull off this window that are at his level and have the sort of scope to be bigger as well. I can't think of anyone that's at his level already, but has the ceiling that can also push himself to another level that we could actually realistically get. So I don't want to get sort of let down again by dreaming that it could happen, but I think he would be great. Hopefully, after we beat City, that we can. Do you reckon if we beat City, it'll make it harder to get him?
I was wondering if they just thrash us, like, will they be like, all right?
Nah, they're no
Sympathy.
threat. Have a $5 million break or £5 million break. Go for it, guys. But if we beat them, it's like a 15 mil more. Now, I think Savinho is a great player. Obviously, I think it's hard to turn your nose up at a player who was, I guess, at least starting for Manchester City at 21 years old and was I believe, their leading assister last season. So
I think even with De Bruyne, maybe.
Yeah, it was even with De Bruyne, but that's still first.
Yeah, still first.
It fits my agenda, so we'll say it in the way that fits.
He lost on penalties, though.
Darn.
PSG reference. It didn't really work.
But yeah, I think that he would be. He is good for a lot of reasons. I think obviously everyone's kind of seen that by now, his ability to dribble, and his dribbling is very fun to watch. And it seems like that's the kind of player that that Frank is wanting. He's wanting a lot of wingers that can dribble, and by having two wingers that can dribble, it opens up the opportunity for the other winger to dribble more, because you can't focus all on one side. Like Burnley last weekend didn't have to put as much focus on Johnson once he had the ball, so they could, pay more attention to Kudus. But if it's Kudus and Savinho, then all of a sudden you've got two guys who can just ruin you if you let them go 1v1. So that is very fun to think about. That combined with Richarlison starting the season well and hopefully staying fit. And then between him and Solanke both being very good aerial presences, that's really exciting because, a lot of the best way to break down low block teams is to beat your man and then put a cross into the box. And if we can do that consistently, then our wingers don't really need to score, especially not if we get a 10 who can kind of also provide a little bit of finishing output. So I think that Savinho is exciting. He is a bit more transfer drama, but at this point, it's kind of the point of transfers. Every transfer will come with drama, unless even Bergvall was transfer drama, and we signed him from Sweden.
Ferguson was as well. He was a nightmare saga.
Exactly. Every transfer we have these days, if it isn't like immediate, even ones that the first thing we hear about is here we go is still transfer drama. Like Morgan Gibbs White, everything is drama now. There will not be a transfer without drama, especially not the way that we operate. So yeah, I hope we get him. I think it makes based on the fact that the same things have been recycled over and over and over and over again. It feels to me like they're very clearly waiting for the game, because they're still, even after we play, there's still 10 or so days until the window shuts, because it shuts on the midnight on September 1st, I believe. So I think that's there's time afterwards. It's not like we're pushing up against it when we're getting to signing Savinho. Like we don't have to sign him immediately after the game, essentially. But I think that talks will accelerate afterwards, and we will find a conclusion quickly after the game, one way or the other.
I wanted to say a quick thing on Kamal's comment earlier. If you believe the ITKs, which is a bit of an oxymoron, but if you believe the ITKs, then apparently Richie spoke to Savinho in the last day or two, supposedly. So hopefully the pigeon is doing some.
He said he'd get a tattoo on his back.
Yeah, exactly.
Tattoo next to Neymar. Yeah, yeah.
I choose to believe everything ITKs say that align with my worldview. Believing is free, and that's why. Yep, exactly. All right. So that being said, after talking about believing that we will get Savinho, which I think even since the beginning of these two transfer sagas, which are both started about the same time last week, if I remember correctly, at least serious links to Eze and then serious links to Savinho. It does kind of feel like Savinho's always been the more likely of the two, even though he is going to be more expensive and even though he is from City, because it just doesn't make sense it doesn't make sense for him to stay, because World Cup year, he's got a lot of competition up front for Brazil. He needs to be starting games. And I think if it got to it, I think he probably would go up into Pep's office and say, I need to play. Maybe not I need to leave, but I need to play. And Pep has very clearly decided he's not going to play. They've got Oscar Bob, they've got Doku, they've got Marmoush, they've got plenty of players on the wings that they would rather play instead of Savinho. So Savinho is just not going to find the minutes in that team this season, at least as much as he wants. And I think that, on the contrary, it makes sense for Tottenham to go in. And I don't think we would have gone in for him at all if there hadn't been an inkling that we could get it done. Like Sniper said, Savinho is not an Arsenal fan, as far as we know. So that does make things better. I'm a big fan of not Arsenal fan players. That being said, I'm more confident in him than Eze. Eze has obviously fallen through. That does not mean I'm confident, because I will not be confident in any signing until they are in the shirt, because it's happened too many times now. I'm scared. I'm scarred. Once bitten, twice shy. What happens if you get bitten twice? Is it 3 or 4 times? Are you just doubling it, or are you?
I think you just die. I think you just that's it.
Honestly, it feels like that's kind of felt what I felt like when I heard the Eze news. So that, I think you're right.
Yeah, it's
and you're right. I think
saga.
there is a more realistic, this Savinho one, because of the fact that he doesn't sort of. It's not like he is at that point he should leave, in terms of like Eze was a year and a half, basically a bit more than that, left on his contract. It was the right timing. Where Savinho kind of is like he wants to go play, and it's just like he's in a sort of major part of his contract, and the links don't make sense to be made up. Does that make sense what I'm trying to explain there? Like, there's a lot of ones where it's like, oh, this person's coming towards the end of this contract. Let's just write an article about how Spurs could sign him. And they was like, Spurs could do this. And you're like, well, that doesn't mean anything. But this one is more like, it seems like people are actually going for him and they're trying to make it happen. So I am hopeful that it can get done. I guess it's just going to come down to money at the end of the day with this one, doesn't it? Is that what it's going to be? Just money?
Yep. That does kind of seem like that's where it's headed. Money and the willingness of Real Madrid to let Rodrigo go, if you believe reports, which they said that they were never going to let him go. And then every report since has been, he's on the bench. He's not going to play. He's never going to play for them again. He needs to leave. So who knows what the truth is? I think, especially with it being a World Cup year, I think that does also change the calculus a little bit for these kinds of players, for both Rodrigo and Savinho, because I think they are both looking for places that they can play every week, because you want, at the end of the day, these World Cup squads are going to be made on form, or at least they should be. And if a player isn't playing, they can't be in form, and if they're not in form, they probably won't get picked. So that's another point that makes me a little bit less than completely doomer about this. Let's raid West Ham. Go get Paqueta.
They're terrible, West Ham.
They are.
They might be in and amongst it.
I think they will be. But I mean, it'd be just seems so unrealistic to get 2 players out of them in one window, let alone 2 players out of them in 10 years. So, but I think he would fit. I think he would be a good player to have in. It just seems trying to do a double deal with them would be pretty unusual. Shawnee!
Yes.
I actually want to say something about this point you just made too. This is kind of going along with what I wanted to just say. I think kind of going along with your point as well, Joe, the fact that it came out as an exclusive story from Fabrizio with only us being linked with this deal. It's not something where his name has been kind of banded around linked to a number of clubs all summer. It's really like between us and City trying to get the specific deal done. And the way that it's been discussed kind of reminds me of like when we signed Brennan Johnson. It was very like, this is the target that the manager wants, kind of thing. And so that situation and just kind of the vibes around the whole thing makes me feel like we could do it. I think it is the only question mark for me is this City or blocking it thing. Have they actually thought, wait a second, we can't do this? That's the only one. I think if that's just kind of them, for the sake of their negotiating position, then fair play. But I think we'll get up to a reason, like the kind of like the fee that they are expecting to be able to sell him, and then he obviously wants to move. So yeah, I think it feels good. It feels better than the Eze one. It doesn't have the same like eerie, I don't have the same scary thought in the back of my mind, but whether or not it comes to fruition, we will see.
We shall. And as to why Woolwich didn't go for Savinho, Eze is, I think, still a little bit more of a finished product than Savinho. Not saying Savinho is not fantastic, but also I think part of it is just the name recognition. Also, City probably are more willing to sell to us than Arsenal because we are not currently in competition with them. I don't think as much as we want to be in the future. We are not their direct
Eze's
rivals.
Eze's probably better at defending corners. So
yeah, a bit taller.
Yeah,
Exactly.
better at set pieces. So that's all they do.
Yeah. I think this is the question, isn't it? If Rodrigo's not leaving Madrid, does that mean Savinho's not leaving City? I don't know. I'm not in the City board. It kind of feels that way, but then again, I think this is also a good point. I think Khan makes a great point that City not accepting 80 million euros it would be kind of crazy. It is a big overpay, and it would allow them, even if they don't go for Rodrigo now, it could allow for them to better set up for Rodrigo in the future, or set up for another player that you can just say, hey, you want to come to City? And most players are going to say, yeah, I want to come to City and play under arguably the best manager in the world right now. So I think it would be kind of crazy if they didn't accept it, but City obviously don't need the money, so we'll see.
Rodrigo is warming that bench at Madrid too. Like Xabi Alonso is not playing him, so he didn't give him like any minutes in the Club World Cup. I think he sat through Madrid's full opener of the season. So as much as they want to say Rodrigo wants to stay, we don't want to lose Rodrigo. Why would they say otherwise? Kind of thing.
Yeah, it's very funny because we've seen this time and time again, right? Manager says this guy is important to my plans. He will never let this guy leave. He's going to be a club legend in every single press conference, and then every single game. Unused sub, not named to the bench. Unused sub, not named to the bench. 3-minute cameo, unused sub. Yeah, I think that this is very clearly a case of not wanting to say the wrong thing so you can maximize his value to sell him, because as long as you say he's important to you, he's important to you for all intents and purposes.
Financially is important.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. They could just come out and say that. But
Yeah.
I mean, these guys that are doing the deals aren't stupid.
No.
Like they know that that's the tactic that they're using. I just guess you can't go out and say it. But I think you're right, Deej, that the January still exists. They could just have PSR sorted by making 50 million? Was he 30 million? They took him from,
I think so.
Genoa?
Yeah, really hard fought transfer negotiations between the people who own City and also the people who own City. Okay, so maybe it wasn't as difficult as I was once led to believe, but yeah, they'll be able to turn in a nice tidy profit from this.
Yeah. And then they could, I mean, if it doesn't pay off this window, because it's getting close to the end, there's still heaps of time to get sell him to us, buy Rodrigo. But if not, January still exists.
Yep.
I don't necessarily think the Rodrigo one hinges this. I think it's more us getting to that mark where they can let one of the most talented young wingers go and feel good about it.
Yeah.
I guess they're probably, using your favorite phrase at the moment, once bitten, twice shy about Cole Palmer. I think the fan base doesn't want that to happen again too. So they probably, if they can get that much money for him, because what did Paul Palmer was he
50?
Was he 50? Yeah. So
40 million. 40
million. So that's not, for what he's become, that's nothing. So they probably don't want that to happen again as well. So I think this overpaying thing is right. We're in the point where we need to overpay for multiple reasons. And I think the clubs set themselves up so well financially that we can do that now. And I think it's probably time we do that for the obvious reasons.
Yeah. The reason I brought this up is actually another reason why I want to get Savinho done as quickly as possible. Because if we overpay for Savinho, because obviously we originally wanted to pay like what the quoted price was around 60 million euros, and we've gotten up to 80. So, oh no, that's eaten into our pot for the 10. So we actually don't have as much money as you thought we did, even though we've put 60 million pounds on a player 2 months in a row and had it beaten away. So yeah, no, but we spent that all on Savinho, so we have to have real serious negotiations again. Is obviously that wouldn't be how that worked, but in my head, that's how it works. So another reason I'd like to get them done is to, one, show that we've spent to our fans, and two, show that we've spent to other clubs to show that we don't, because I don't want to have to drop like 40, 50 million on an El Khannouss, obviously, like that not him specifically, because he's apparently already agreed to a deal in the range of 30 something million pounds. But if we went to like another team that hadn't had negotiations, like for Tyler Dibling, for example, and they're like, we know you've got money, come on, we know you'll accept this, you're desperate. Whereas if we get you Savinho, hopefully that takes that monkey off our back a little bit. But who knows?
Yeah, I also think like at the beginning of the window, at least for me personally, it felt like the transfer like the valuations were kind of coming down a little bit after some gross spending over the past couple of years. Yeah, I love it. Khannouss, it's a great idea.
That's our kink.
We got linked
shamed in the window.
We got linked with a season-long loan for Rodrigo today. That made me laugh.
Yeah, I think Rodrigo, Tottenham, and Manchester City, or not Manchester City, screw it, Manchester City and Real Madrid all learned about that for the first time when that article came out.
Yeah. But yeah, with like, I think the valuations are a lot higher now than I was expecting them to be at the beginning of the window. I think a lot of that is, it's kind of like once one player goes for too much, then every other club says, okay, well, we can ask for this. I think in this window, you saw Alanga go for 55 million of the Queen's finest, which is, don't even get me started on that. You saw Madueke go for 55 million. Kudus, of course, was unbelievable value at 55 million. So I mean, and Ouattara was like 38. So I think things are. I mean, and Eze too. To be honest, Eze is what, 60 to 68 million pound package. So I think it gets to a point where Savinho is looking like better and better value. So as long as they don't string us along for too long, it seems like we can hopefully get it. And I think if we get it done, we'll look back and say that it was good value for it around 68 million pound or whatever it is, 65 million pound.
The market nearly reset itself when like Anthony went to United. I feel like a lot of clubs were like, let's just calm down. Like, we're getting stupid money here. Like, this is just ridiculous. And then for like a year, 2 years, it seemed to calm down a bit, and now it's going back to where it is. But I mean, also things push it up, like the ridiculous deals that Chelsea are doing, selling players that haven't played before for 30 million, stuff like that. Like, it just, the market has so many different players in it that do so many different things that there isn't really a market value set for players now. It's just all over the place depending on need and age. And even the players that are 21 are worth way more now than they are when they're 26, which to me doesn't really make much sense, because, well, you can't, if you're buying him that much because his potential could go up, his value, then how are you going to sell him for that much when he gets to 26? Like, you're not really securing the value in him. So yeah, the market's crazy. It doesn't really make much sense for what players are going for at the moment. So I feel like we have to just look at them all in isolation.
Yeah. So, other options. If Savinho falls through, if City decide they don't want to sell to I'm not even going to pretend to say direct rival. If they don't want to sell to another Premier League club, if they don't want to give him
their boogeyman.
Yeah, if they don't want to sell to their boogeyman, that's true. We are that for them. Max, you said you had a list of some alternate options. You want to go through some of those?
Yeah, so some of these are linked and some of these I kind of thought up. So the first one I have is Mitoma from Brighton. The reason for this link, like I said, I don't think that I haven't seen anything about us being interested in him. But I think if we could get him for around the 40 million pound mark, his contract is up in 2027. Obviously the downside is you're paying for his peak because he's 28. You probably only get, especially for a winger, maybe 2 to 3 years out of him. But I do think if you're not finding a player like Savinho whose ceiling is significantly higher than what we have, then it makes sense to go for a player that immediately improves the team, and players like Audebert and Tell can kind of develop underneath in that left wing spot. So like I said, I think that would be very dependent on the fee, but I think it would be a relatively astute buy. What do you guys think of that idea?
I would agree. I think he doesn't necessarily fit the timeline that we're currently building. That's the only thing that kind of concerns me. But the counter argument could be to that is that we're just kind of waiting. He would be not a stopgap, but like a 2 or 3 year replacement until we figure out until Tell, more, etc., turn into more known quantities. So yeah, obviously, I would take pretty much as long as they can like offer a unique profile on the left. I think it's someone that I'd be happy with, and I think that Mitoma is definitely someone who does that. He's prem proven, very fun to watch, and I would definitely take him. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, not much more I can add.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think with Mitoma is that he doesn't seem to play as much as you expect. Does anyone have any reason to know why that's the case, or am I just randomly catching Brighton games when that's randomly that it's just he's not starting? But he doesn't seem to start as much as you expect him to, given his quality.
Let me look at his injuries.
He had injuries.
Yeah,
I feel like I remember him having a few injuries, but I'm not. Maybe that's just me believing that into existence because I tuned into a Brighton game and it's not on. I do think
Kamal's. You finished.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing you were going to say. Yeah. I think that is a good point. That especially buying for a club that's I think Brighton are at the point now where they're going to be pushing for European football. Like whether or not happens, that's what their goal is this season is finishing in that top 7-8. So believing it this late does kind of preclude us from buying from those kind of clubs, especially a player of the talent of Mitoma, which is a reason why I think it probably won't happen, but would love for it to happen nonetheless. I see another name being listed that I think has been talked about, not necessarily is linked to Tottenham, but linked to leaving his current club, and that's Ademola Lookman. I think he's a bit different of a profile, I think, than the two we've mentioned so far, and that he's more of a he is more of a goal scoring threat, I think, than the other two. But if you guys want to, Max, if you have anything you want to add to that.
Is he coming?
Joe, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah. The only thing with Lookman, right? His stats look really good, especially like over recent years, but he has not shone in the Premier League when he's been here. So I'm curious to whether that is just a step up, one step too far, because that's a realistic thing. Like Anthony, bring him up again, left Man United and played well at Betis, was it? He went to. Mm-hmm. So it's some players just the leagues don't fit them. Paulinho going to Bayern Munich, it was just a different style and stuff like that. So stats wise, he looks really good. But yeah, I don't know. This is not me saying yes or no to him. It's just the question I would be, is it the Premier League one step too far in terms of the physicality of it? Because every league has a different sort of attribute to it as well that's important. But Max, did you have Lookman on your list?
Yeah, I had him on our list, and I've seen a couple tidbits that we've looked at him. But yeah, kind of like what you're saying, I'm not obsessed with the fit. I think he's played in that Gasperini 3-back system that really maximizes attackers and really gets strong output out of its players. So not that he's not a great player in his own respect and has made that of himself, but I do think his fit as a pure left winger is definitely a question mark. He's a little bit unique, and so it would be. I mean, if you're going to trust anyone in that situation, you're probably going to trust Thomas Frank. And he'd probably do a great job in the dual striker setup like we've had with Richie and Khannouss, but I'm not super convinced by it, to be honest. I'm not fully sold. I think like if we end up going down the list and we end up with him, then I wouldn't be disappointed. But it's definitely not my favorite.
Yeah. I think at this point, if I think anyone, as much as I will try to find the light in any situation. I think anyone would be kind of disappointed if after we signed Khannouss, who I think is a fantastic signing, our 3 main transfer window targets all fell through. Like our 3 big money signings. Like and I don't think that that's an unreasonable kind of thing to think. Like, because I don't know, we clearly have money to spend. It's coming from somewhere. I don't know where exactly, but we have it, and we wanted to spend it on a 10, and we haven't been able to do it thus far. That doesn't mean we won't, because Akliouche or Paz, if we get one of them, will not come cheap. El Khannouss probably a bit more of a reasonable price point. Same with Dibbling, but I think if we miss on all of our big money signings, I think it would be disappointing.
Yep. Just kind of moving back off the wingers, but just because Niall's comments in there, I haven't heard anyone mention Asensio. I don't know why that couldn't be.
I thought he went to Fenerbahce or something. Am I going crazy? I thought he went somewhere, and then it was like someone was trying to get a loan back for him or something. I'll look it up. Last time my laptop almost exploded when I tried to look up some stats a second ago. So
did see that.
I thought he went somewhere. Maybe I'm going crazy. Oh no, he's still at PSG. Maybe it was just a link that I saw. Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at it, to be honest. His wages are big, as we saw from Villa, maxing out their wages to turnover at the end of last season. But he was really good for them. And so if it's really coming down to it and we're looking for an option at the end of the year, I know people would be very frustrated by it. I don't think it would go down well within the fan base, but I don't think it would be as bad as people's reactions would.
Yeah, I think the reason that we wouldn't sign Asensio is I think Frank has been quoted as saying he doesn't want a stopgap option. He wants someone to come in and kind of mold, which is why I think we're kind of looking, especially now that we're not getting Eze, I think that it looks like all of our links are on the younger side. So Frank can still kind of, mold them to be what he wants, whether that be Paz, Akliouche, El Khannouss, Dibbling, even Rogers. All of those links are on the younger side. And I think same kind of with Savinho, where you kind of have time to I think Frank is obviously really good at developing players. And so I think he probably wants players who he has the ability to develop further. But yeah, I think that whatever we go for, I think will probably be a bit of a younger profile than Asensio. And I think that's my guess as for why he hasn't been mentioned. Again, like I said earlier, he doesn't really fit the timeline that this team seems to be operating on either.
That's fair, yeah. That's fair. Back to wingers.
Anyone else on the list that you're excited about, Max?
So another one is Malik Fofana, who I think we also potentially is on our radar. He is, I believe, only 20 years old from Lyon. Lyon need to raise some funds still, so I think he'd be available at around the 30 to 40 million pound mark. There's a lot of competition for a signature. I think Arsenal and Liverpool, among others, have been interested. My question mark with him, and I watched a little bit of him in Liga and then also in the Europa League, and he looks really promising and he looks great. But I do wonder if, kind of like the point I made about Savio is an opportunity signing to where he's better than anything we have. I do feel like Fofana is a little bit closer to the plane that Alderweireld is on, to be honest. It feels like...
No.
Okay.
He's back.
Am I back?
Yes.
Sorry, guys. My laptop is blowing right now. Yeah, so I think he's a little bit too close to Alderweireld to make sense as far as a development path. But I similar to what I mentioned with with Lookman, I would be satisfied with that signing, to be honest, if we just wanted to get another winger option in the mix. But he's not going to come in and immediately start spitting output out from the wing for the team like Savio would.
At this point, I will delude myself over any signing, I think. So I'm not sure that bar is super high for me personally, but yeah, I think that's a good kind of summary of where we are. I think that we have backup options, but I think that Savinho is kind of, not only is he the most exciting one, I do think he is a little bit unique in the mixture between his profile and his readiness and also his ability to continue to improve, because I know his big knock is finishing. But if you go back and watch the last 80 shots fail compilation that's been going around of him, you can choose to see it as, wow, this guy cannot hit the broadside of a barn, which is true in those clips. But he also, like, his form is good when he shoots, which is like kind of the biggest thing that's hard to shake out of a player as they like mature, is if they get stuck into bad form when they're like young, it's really hard to break that from them. Like, I don't know, like for example, Timo Werner, don't like his shooting form very much. He can also hit it very hard, but he very clearly can't hit it in the correct way. So if we can have someone like Frank to come and help focus him on that, he's already so good at dribbling, and like his body control is so fantastic. And those are the kinds of things that you just can't teach a player. He's very exciting.
Yeah, I think he's coachable in his finishing. I think it's a lot about, set like the touch before the shot, like setting up, creating the angle a little bit better. I do think a lot of his, if you go through that shot comp, a lot of his efforts are pretty central. But like you mentioned, Deej, he's striking them pretty well. So I would have faith in Frank there to develop. And then it's also like worst case scenario, like his crossing is ridiculous. His dribbling is ridiculous. I think he provides so much upside that he can tide himself over until that finishing develops a little bit.
Yeah. I see Soul
I
Sniper
agree
saying,
with.
sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, it's kind of the same thing. It's I feel like Savinho has to be our guy. I feel like anyone else that's a younger potential talent is just what we already have.
With Odegaard.
What we need now in the squad is Odegaard. He needs time to develop, because I'm still very bullish on Odegaard. I just think he needs time. We need someone now that's going to take up that mantle as being the number one guy. So I don't think getting any of these guys that are. That's why I feel like Matoma. I don't think it's realistic, because Brighton will want to have to sign someone, but would be probably a better option because he can fill that gap for a couple of years. But any of these younger guys, I don't think is worth taking over Savinho unless it completely falls through and we have no choice. I don't even know if we need anyone if it falls through. I feel like this is like take someone at the higher level. If not, then just focus our players elsewhere, because you're just basically bringing in a Tell and an Odegaard anyway. So, yeah.
It's very similar to, sorry, just really quick, DJ. It really reminds me of Liverpool with Caicedo. Like, they were like, this is the six that we need. Let's go completely all out. They weren't able to get that done, and they said, okay, let's just sit on our hands, see if our next big target comes up, and look at Gravenberch now. He's like one of the best defensive midfielders in the league. It's a similar situation to where if Savinho falls through, Odegaard could take a giant step that a lot of people expect, but maybe not to the level that he could. So, yeah.
Okay. And to go through and look at the other options that have been listed recently, Malik Tillman, would have loved him, but he moved this summer, so that's kind of out the window. Would have loved him from PSV. Obviously, I'd love him because he's American. Seen him play a couple of times in person internationally, but unfortunately, I just don't think that he is. I mean, he's not available right now because he just moved. Antonio Nusa is someone I really liked last year, and he was linked to go to somebody in January. I don't remember who. I feel like it was Villa, off the back of them selling Duran for like £1 billion to Saudi Arabia. But if I remember correctly, he has some sort of like the medical brought up.
We almost got him.
Was it us?
We almost got him, and then Brentford came and
that's what it was.
Medical.
He failed his medical. He's got some sort of recurring injury that scared him and every other Premier League club off, which is why I haven't mentioned him yet, because yes, he's a really good player, but if it's going to scare Premier League clubs off of his signature, we have enough injury problems as it is. I don't want someone who comes in with injury problems
Also, Barca really like him, and I think Leipzig quoted them like 80 million.
Of course,
Leipzig. So
yeah. And then the other one that I saw that we kind of been linked to, I don't remember if it's from anyone, probably not from anyone super reliable, but Take Kubo from former Real Madrid wonder kid, now at Real Sociedad. He is another one, very good, would also be very expensive. That's
and is very right-sided.
Yes, that's another issue.
Doesn't really have the positional versatility. It's not like he's like predominantly on the right, but he can cover off, 10 and left wing. I think he's just kind of a right winger that we.
Yes, I think that we definitely are looking very clearly for someone to play on the left. I think that makes sense both based on our personnel that we currently have and the kind of other options we've gone for so far. I think it seems like we'll play Savinho on the left. We've got Khannouss to lock down the right. My guess is that Odegaard will probably be his understudy. It seems like Johnson will kind of float across the front three, depending on where he's needed, because he's going to be. It doesn't matter as much which side he plays on because he's more end product focused. So basically, you can play him on the other side of someone else who's more ball adept, but we don't really have that Khannouss for the left, and I think that's kind of what we're looking for. We do need to find someone like Højbjerg only in terms of injury history.
We got Pedro Porro.
That's true. Pedro Porro does not ever get hurt.
I guess the other option is Garnacho. Interesting one because I think he's a great player. He's kind of similar with his finishing a little bit, but he has pulled off some world-class finishes too, though. But seems like he all reports that he wants to go to Chelsea, and he does. I don't know. Man United, it's hard to go off personality and what people. It's really hard to know if it's a personality thing for Man United because they're such a weird place, weird club. So I don't know if it's what happens there. He could have a bad personality. He might not. It might just be the situation that he's in. So I don't know. We don't know him, but he's fairly good. He is fairly good in most metrics.
Yes. I would love to. Unfortunately, I already bought tickets to watch him in San Jose.
I'm going to that game.
The one in which one?
The 13th, the September.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm going.
Oh shit. Okay, we'll have to go.
Sort that out.
Okay, bet. Okay, that's crazy. But yeah, if I'm ever in the LA area, I will reach out to you personally, FPL Nija, and we'll find a way to consume Sun-related content. Okay, so I think we've talked enough about transfers that may or may not happen. It's always fun to dream, but now we need. Can
I just ask one more thing before you go on? I want to know. So about a week ago, when we were looking at having Eze and Savinho in, I felt it looked like it was going to be our best window ever. But so what do you think we need to do to make it our best window ever still? We've got Paulinho, Khannouss, the couple of loans confirmed. So what 2 players? Is it 2 players? What do we need to do to make it the best window ever from now on? Just quickly to finish off this.
Savinho plus.
You have to give me a name.
Plus. I can't. Plus a center, so left side of center back.
So 3 would make it the best ever.
Yeah.
I think 2, even with all the signings we've got.
Yeah, probably. I mean, we've had good windows. We've had bad windows. It's hard for this to be the best window with the kind of transfer embarrassments we had. So that's why I kind of think it's got to be borderline unreasonable to make us forget.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I was alluding to. It has to be pretty wild for it to be. Yeah, that better go, Max. Tell me, what do you think?
I think so I feel like the best window of like we've ever had of all time would have been Savinho, Eze, and honestly Hincapié as well, which is also incredibly unrealistic. But yeah, I think it'll probably fall to like a 9 regardless, even in our best case scenario now, because I think even Savio and Akliouche are even having both of them there, it does leave us with a lot of left-footed, right-sided players, which isn't as ideal as I think the Eze one would have been, yeah, Lamine Yamal would take it up there for sure.
Yeah.
Let's get Lamine Yamal, Bastoni, and
Take Messi on loan.
yeah. And then we can restore Madison's ACL, or Anyway, yeah. So I think, okay, Savio has to get done for it to be in the same wheelhouses of it being our best window. And then I think Akliouche is great. I think El Khannouss is less great, but still would be really, really strong still. But I think then it has to come with a Hincapié or similar level left center back, left back hybrid player to be like, this is one of the best windows ever, to like recover from the embarrassment of the Eze saga, the frustration of the Morgan Gibbs White saga. So,
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Apparently, Frank wants 2 number 10s, and to that I say, have you met our owner? I don't want to put as much blame on the ownership as I think a lot of people kind of knee jerk to. But I don't think we're buying 2, especially with Madison and Kulusevski coming back eventually. Those are squad faces we need to fill, and I mean, they're both obviously very talented when healthy, so we don't want to kind of force them out of the squad, because then we wouldn't be able to get a reasonable transfer fee for them, unless we're Chelsea, in which case we would probably buy them for like 100 million. But we're not them. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be very hard to make this the best window ever, but not every window has to be the best window ever. And I think we can still make this a very good window by bringing in these players. However, yeah, I don't know. There's no perfect option.
And we'll see mid-season or even at the end of the season, when Arsenal have finished third or whatever, and Akliouche is like one of the best creative midfielders in the league, then it's like, oh, maybe that was like we dodged a bullet. This is one of our best windows, and since I can remember, kind of thing. Like, I think hindsight will be hopefully our best friend in this scenario. I think right now it just feels like the optics and the pain of it all has really taken it down a peg for a lot of people.
Yeah, I would agree. So on that very, very happy note, we'll turn our attention to the City game at the weekend for the last little bit of the show, the inaugural OhSoInternational episode. I am worried, as always, for City. I think that they look good because they kind of always do. But then again, we're always their bogey team. It kind of doesn't matter who the manager is. We seem to always pull out a weird result against them. That doesn't mean that I ever go in expecting it, because I never do. But I think that we have seen that Frank has a plan for teams that are dominant in the way that City are. If you look at the way they set up, especially in terms of their midfield, they were very light defensively, much in the way that PSG were. Obviously, they've had a preseason; they've had more time to play together, so they will be better off equipped to like break off the mistakes that PSG may not have been as equipped to, because it was the start of their season. But nonetheless, it did seem like they, especially at least against Wolves, they kind of gave up a bit of defensive stability in exchange for suffocating attack. And if they do that again against us, I would expect us to line up very similar to the way that we did against PSG. What do you guys think?
Go on, Joe.
This is probably the most confident I've been in the City game, even though we normally do pull one out over them. I do have faith in Frank's sort of tactical abilities to do something against what City are going to bring. I'm hopeful that City's whole bunch of new players, I mean, their spine is pretty settled, but they do have a lot of new players there, so to sort of adapt to it could be tricky. I'm hoping that he brings, because I'm assuming Pep's going to expect what we did against PSG. So it'll be interesting to see if Frank just like double bluffs him and does something else again. But watching the Wolves game that they played, I mentioned this last stream I was on, that Wolves seemed terrible, and then they got back into the game. and they started creating chances. And it was just that in the end, it was the City had way better players that are pulling it out. So pretty much, I think what City are going to be relying on is that they have just such high quality level of players in their team, and that can make any system good. But I do think that Frank's going to have a good plan for it, and we can. I wouldn't be surprised to see Johnson start again, basic just to finish and get in behind. But we could also see the exact same setup we saw against PSG with Khannouss and Richie up front. I definitely think it'll be Pat, Bentancur, and Polina in the midfield though, and the back four will be the back five that we've seen the first sort of two competitive games. So pretty much that's going to be a guarantee. It's just what he does in the front line. It's going to be the unexpected thing. So, but I reckon we have a very good chance against them. We always pull up against them, and yeah, I can't see why we can't win this game. So I'm pretty positive. I'm feeling good about Frank at the moment and the team. I just think we can transfer stuff. We can push on to be a top 5 team. But I think this game is suited to us very much so. Max?
Yeah, I think what I love about Frank, before he came to us and what I've seen so far is no matter what happens in the game, you really appreciate the approach that he's taken and the kind of idea. You can see the idea, and even if it's unsuccessful, you kind of know that he'll take that away and adjust from there. So it's difficult. I'm trying to think about what system we'll use. I've seen a lot of people say we'll use the PSG system. I've seen people say in the comments here as well. Soul Sniper said same system as PSG. I think we may. So I was looking at Brentford's games against City last season, and they used a 4 at the back in both fixtures. And I do think that having Danso defending in the channel against PSG versus Barcola was rough, even though we got through it for a long period of.
He was so far out wide though. He got dragged out so wide. It's not a skill that he's going to be adept at being a centre back. So, I Doku's going to be the same situation, really, isn't it?
Doku, I think is just as quick, if not quicker, and he has that kind of first that quick step thing he does that I think would just leave him in the dust. So. Yeah, I can foresee us using a 4 where City's City's fullbacks will be really attacking. We'll have to have our wingers kind of defend on both sides of there, and then clog up the middle of the park with a 3-man midfield, like you said, of Bentancur, Polina, and Sarr. And then I'd really want to see pretty much the same front line as the weekend. Brennan Johnson, I think, is great for stretching games. He's such a problem in behind. Khannouss as well, obviously, especially with slowing the game down and winning fouls, and then Richarlison's obviously in great form, and I think he'd be effective as well. So I'm feeling pretty good about the game. I feel like usually I am not confident and then we win, so I'm like, maybe this is the reverse is happening and it's going to go really badly. But yeah, I feel like I said, I think we'll have a really good go of it, and it'll be interesting to see what the specific instructions will be, just because City look a little bit different this season too, right? They have a lot more danger in the middle of the park with grinders, and whether or not they'll start Shirky is an interesting one as well. So I think it'll be a great watch regardless.
No, yeah, I completely agree. Looking at the lineup that they ran against Wolves, starting both Bernardo Silva and Reinders in the midfield with Nico Gonzalez at the base of the midfield is very fun if you are watching them go forward, but not very fun if you're watching them go back. So that's if they go with the same midfield 3, which obviously they don't have to. They've got the squad to kind of rotate. I think Pep has kind of trimmed that squad down to be exactly the players that he wants to have available at any point in time. Which is kind of another reason why it feels like Savinho is available, because Pep is clearly determined that he's surplus to requirements, at least for the beginning of the season, because he's injured, but he's at home training every day. And even at the end of last season, I went back and looked, and he was getting dropped from benches and stuff, which is not what you want to see if you are looking for consistent minutes before a World Cup year. But yeah, I think that I kind of hope, honestly, that we come out with the same kind of 5-3-2 that we did mostly because I think that opens up our wingbacks to carry a little bit more of the creative burden, because I really like to watch Jed Spence carry the ball, and I really like to watch Pedro Porro whip a cross in. I think those are two things that those players are like really good at, that especially against City, you really don't want them to be in the positions to do if you're playing with four at the back, because you kind of need to be really paying attention to your back line kind of at all times, because they have so much attacking talent. They can just destroy you at any moment if you're not paying attention. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. I also just really like the look of Kevin Danso. I thought that the role he played in the City or in the PSG game was so interesting, where like half the time he was listed as our center back, but there were times where he was even with Richarlison. There were times he was playing in the midfield. There was times that he was playing as a wing back. There was times he was playing as a center back. He played, I swear, every position on the right side of the pitch at some point in that 90 minutes. And I think that's if that's like a position that he's comfortable in, and that's a position that Frank kind of wants him to be, I think that's a tactical wrinkle that we can kind of almost exploit, especially with him being the regen of a prime Stoke City player with his long throws. So I think that I want to see that again. Honestly, I want to see how that plays out against City.
This is the best part, isn't it, about Frank, though, is that it's really interesting to see what he's going to do, and we have the confidence that he's going to do something, not unique necessarily, but something that's going to be suited, and it's not just sort of going and knowing the same things and hoping it works out this game. So I'm coming to each game being really excited to see what the lineup's going to be, and as we can see, he can start different players at any time too. So, but I don't think we'll see the young guys in the midfield again for this game. I think that was the opportunity to give them minutes was part of that as well. I think FPL Niger brings up a good point. Actually, I think it would be interesting to see Romero play that role as a roamer, because Romero does love to roam, even in a back four. The only reason that I would be hesitant to put him there is because I want him to not get a yellow card in the first 5 minutes of the game. Which also, he can pass from deep too. So
yeah,
let him sit back, and
I think
and we don't have that.
Yes,
other than Pyro, and
his passing range from the back line, I think, is makes him more valuable being in that back line than roaming. Even though I do think he would also be better at roaming. It does kind of suck when Romero's kind of just really good at everything. Thank God we signed him to a new contract. Am I right?
That's what I was about to say. I know we're still sad about Eze, whatever, but whenever you feel sad, just remember that Romero signed a new contract. I did not expect that to happen in the slightest. That's probably the best signing we could have made this window, to be honest with you. Yeah. Barring we get Yamal or like whoever said that, but you know what I mean. That was
yeah. Okay. Well, I think that. Yeah, I was going to say, I think that pretty much covers the thing. We can do predictions, and I think that'll be it for today. I made a prediction earlier on the preview podcast. Go check it out. And I believe I predicted 3-2. So I will stick with that. I said that Matis Tell would get the winner because I think that'd be fun. And I think that Erling Haaland will get a red card for swinging at Romero.
Wow.
That was a new one. That's an OhSoInternational exclusive right there. You can't just go get that from anywhere.
After the ponytail pull, that's what I predicted that last.
True. The ponytail pull, but the ref won't see it, and then Romero, and then Haaland will turn around, full just left hook directly into Romero, and he'll barely miss. But it's the kind of punch that would send Romero out for a few weeks if it connected.
Max, what are you saying?
I'm gonna go for a Desmond. I'm gonna go for a 2-2. So yeah, I think. Should I predict some scorers too? I'll go
for as much as you want.
I'll go Brennan and Sarr, and City. Who cares? Haaland and Rangers or something. Haaland, you know what? Because it's against us, it'll probably be some stupid like deflected 8-Nori goal.
Yeah,
Haaland,
and then Nico Gonzalez 40-yarder.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, round us off.
I got 3-1 to us.
Oh yeah.
I think the Ainori shout for them is a really good one. I feel like that'll be who it is. It'll be from just inside the box, across the goal, kind of like Lee's goal against us, but inside the box. I've got definitely Johnson. I reckon he's going again. I reckon it'll be 2-1, and then we'll get a third after they're pushing late on. So Johnson, I like Saar too. I like that call. And then
Johnson again, Ole.
yeah, brace for Johnson.
Yeah,
brace for Johnson.
That would be nice. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up here. Thank you guys again so much for tuning into the inaugural episode of OhSoInternational. We'll have a few more hosts coming in, depending on schedules, but this has been really fun. Hopefully we get to make this a consistent thing across the season to kind of bring this to the folks who can't necessarily tune into the UK-centric time schedule that those darn Brits keeps making me record at. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun.
appreciate
All right.
you.
Have a good one, y'all. And come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you
Spurs.
Now we get to wait for the stream
Did
to
you do it
end.
like